Hello everyone, in this demo we are going to see what is a runtime polymorphism. So runtime polymorphism is a big concept. By the end of this video I ensure you that you are going to understand that concept. Now we have seen abstract classes in our earlier video. We saw the complete concept of runtime polymorphism. Now we will go for its implementation. Say I have a class employee, which is an abstract class. As I told you, abstract class is blueprint of the problem. So employee has employee ID, employee name and salary per day. Say I am trying to develop an application for a college, an engineering college. So lab assistant, lecturer and admin are nothing but the roles or the end users of our application. And say I have got employee class. Employee class is an abstract class. So lab assistant I am inheriting from employee class, and lecturer I am inheriting from employee class, admin I am inheriting from employee class. So lab assistant is an employee, lecturer is an employee, admin is an employee. So as I told you, employee is an abstract class which is blueprint of our problem. So we have employee ID, name and salary per day common for all the end users. So I have taken that in my abstract class, and I have a virtual method display which displays the details, and I have an abstract method calculate salary. As you know, salary for different users or different roles is different. So I haven't implemented the calculate salary method, just it's a blueprint. So any class which is inheriting employee, they need to implement calculate salary. So lab assistant is implementing calculate salary, and for them they have only basic salary, that is nothing but salary per day into number of days present. And for lecturer it is basic salary plus 20% of the basic salary as HRA. Implementation is different. And for admin it is basic salary plus 15% of basic salary as HRA. Now what is that I can do? I can create the reference of abstract class, and at runtime I can ask them to give input about if it is a lab assistant, then I am going to calculate the salary for lab assistant. If it is lecturer, I am going to calculate the salary for lecturer. If it is admin, I am going to calculate the salary for admin. So first of all we will try to implement that with two classes, employee and lab assistant. Then we will go for lecturer, then we will go for admin. And initially we will make employee, the reference of an employee, as an object of lab assistant that we have seen in our earlier video. Now let us jump into the implementation. So I will be first of all implementing the employee class. So abstract class employee, and say it has got protected int id, or I can say emp id, protected string emp name, and protected double salary per day. See, these are the fields. Now if I want to initialize these fields, I can write a constructor here. So I will simply say public employee, and I will have these three fields with me. And I'll be removing this protected from here. So we have already seen, if we have same local variable names and members, then I can use this keyword, this dot employee ID equals to employee ID, and I'll say this dot employee name equals to employee name, and I'll say this dot employee salary per day equals to salary per day. Now this is the constructor of this abstract class. An abstract class can have constructor, there is no problem in it. Now I'll have one virtual method, public virtual void display. It is going to display the details, console.writeLine, employee ID, EMP ID. Again I'll say console.writeLine, employee name, plus EMP name, then finally I'll just write EMP sal per day. Just say plus sal per day. So I have got this virtual method. If I want, I can override it, wherever I need in my derived classes. Now as the class is abstract, I need to have at least one abstract method. I'll just say public abstract void calculate salary, and I am going to pass number of days present, days. If the method is abstract, the class is abstract. So I have implemented this method. So I have implemented this class employee with display as virtual method, calculate salary as abstract method, and my class is abstract. Now I'm going to inherit it in lab assistant. So I'll be creating a new class, lab assistant, which inherits employee, and I'll have a constructor here, public lab assistant, and definitely I should have these three fields because they are protected. I'm getting these three fields from the top. And I'm not going to implement it again here. I'll just use base keyword that we have learned from earlier concepts, and I'm going to pass these three values there. I'll just pass employee ID, employee name, so that this should get initialized over there, and salary per day. Now say lab assistant can have one more extra field, that is nothing but, I'll just say protected int lab number. Now I will just say comma int lab number, and I can initialize that here itself. This dot lab number equals to lab number. Now what about display method? I can simply override even display method, public override void display. Now you see that I'm getting base dot display. That means these three things I can display from this base method, and one extra thing, lab number, I will display it here. I can simply say lab number plus lab number. Fine. Now I need to implement this abstract method. I can say public override, it shows the calculate salary. I'll just take a double variable here, double gross salary equals to salary per day into number of days present. That's it. So this is basic salary. The basic salary is gross salary for lab assistant. I am going to display that. Console.writeLine. Gross salary is plus GS. So that's it. I got my lab assistant ready. Now I'll examine this single inherited class. Now I'm going to create a reference of class employee, and I'm going to make it an object of lab assistant, and I'll be passing 4 parameters: employee ID, employee name, salary per day, and lab number. And then I'll be saying e dot display, and I'll say e dot calculate salary. Here I'll say console dot read line. I'll execute this. There is an error. Let us see what it says. No overloaded method. See, at the time of calculate salary, I need to say number of days present. I will say 25 days. He is present for 25 days. Employee salary per day is 67.7 and gross salary is 1692.5. I will put a breakpoint. Say F5. So it is going to jump to the constructor of lab assistant, and it will jump from here to the base class constructor with 3 parameters. It initializes the 3 variables here. Now comes back, it initializes the last variable. Then display method. First of all, it is going to jump to the base class display method, display the 3 things. The rest of the field it is going to display here. And calculate salary, it is going to use the overridden method calculate salary. It is going to calculate this salary. So this is fine for one class. That means let it be by default the object of lab assistant. Now in the same sense, I am going to implement the rest of the 2 classes, that is nothing but lecturer and admin. So first of all, I'll just make a copy of this and I'll paste it here. For lecturer, copy this. Say lecturer will not have lab number. Say lecturer has string subject. Lecturer is going to handle a particular subject. So I need to change this as a string subject, and this dot subject equals to subject, and here I need to display subject is nothing but subject, and calculate salary. Definitely I need to change the implementation of calculate salary. Now my gross salary will be basic salary plus basic salary plus what is that, 20% as HRA. So 20% as HRA in the sense 20% of basic salary as HRA. That means this is my basic salary into 20 by 100. This is my HRA. This is my basic salary. Now my gross salary becomes basic salary plus HRA. I paused for a while so that I can also implement admin class. So admin class, I do not have any extra fields in this, so simply I am calling the base class constructor from derived class, and calculate salary I am changing it as 15%. See that for admin basic salary plus 15% as HRA. Now let me write some code. Now you see that I am going to call e.display and e.calculate salary for 25 days. Now I'll just give options to the end user. Console.writeLine, enter your choice, and I'll read it in int ch equals to int.parse console.readLine. So enter your choice, and I need to give the choices. One for lab assistant and 2 for lecturer and 3 for admin, and say 4 for exit. Now I am reading the choice in this, and here I will just, depending upon the choices, I will make the reference the object of that particular class. By default it will be an object of lab assistant, so I will just say switch to that choice ch, and here I will say case 1 is nothing but e equals to new, say lab assistant. Same thing, I will simply copy the same and I will simply say break, and case 2, say I will make it an object of lecturer class, new lecturer, and in the parameters I need to pass 1 to 4 as Tom, and salary per day say 89.6, and subject name say Microsoft.net, and I'll simply say break. Let me execute this. Okay, I'll have one more case 3. Case 3, say e equals to new admin, and employee ID is 1 to 6, and say Lily is the admin, and salary per day is 45.8, and it does not have any extra field, so that's it. I'll just say break. Now if you observe the program, can you say what is the method it is going to display, or whose salary is it going to calculate? Is it lab assistants or lecturer or admin? Can I answer it at compile time? When I execute, the end user may give option 1, so it will display the method from lab assistant and calculate salary of lab assistant. If the end user gives 2, then it is going to display the method from lecturer and calculate the salary of lecturer. If end user gives 3, it is going to do for admin. If the case is 4, then it is going to end the program. So I can end the program using system dot threading dot thread dot current thread dot abort. Can simply abort. I can simply end the current thread. It says that from here it can never go to default and all those things. I'll just write break, no problem. There is no problem if I write break here. So anyway, so at compile time I can never say what class method it is going to execute, or what class it is going to calculate the salary from what class. So I cannot say that at compile time. Why? Because the end user may give any option. So depending upon the option, it is going to generate method for that and going to execute for method for that. So the concept behind this is the code generation for display method and calculate salary method is done at runtime. So I call it as runtime polymorphism, and I need not to call e.display again and again for some other end users. I need to call this method only once, and depending upon the choice I am making the object at runtime, I am making the reference of base class and making it an object of derived class at runtime, and then I am calling display method and calculate salary method. Let me execute this. So if I give 1, it should calculate the salary of lab assistant. Lab number 34, it is calculating the salary of lab assistant. Execute this. If my option is 2, it is going to calculate the salary for lecturer. Subject is Microsoft.NET, so it is a lecturer and going to calculate the salary. Salary is 2688. I'll execute this. If my option is 3, so at runtime it is calculating the salaries and executing the methods. If my option is 4, it is going to stop the program. So I am making the reference of my abstract class and making it an object of derived class at runtime, and depending upon the situation or depending upon the user input, it is going to execute either calculate salary of lab assistant, calculate salary of lecturer, or calculate salary of admin. So this concept is called as runtime polymorphism. Now if you observe, this is paint. See that in this paint I have the reference of class diagram. If I click, drag and drop, it is going to select the area. That means my reference is an object of select area. Now I'll make it an object of Eclipse and I'll execute the same method like we are executing calculate salary method. So here I am executing the same method. Click, drag and leave. It has drawn circle. Now my reference is an object of circle. Now if I click rectangle, now my reference becomes an object of rectangle. Now I'll execute the same method. Click, drag, leave. It is drawing rectangle. Now if I select line, now my reference becomes the object of line. Now I am executing the same method. Click, drag and leave. It is drawing line. That means at runtime it is deciding to make it an object of what class. If I select rectangle, it is becoming an object of rectangle class. If I select magnifier, it becomes an object of magnifier. If I click this, it is going to magnify. Now if I select this and if I click, it becomes an object of fill with color. If I select pencil, it becomes an object of pencil. Now if I click, drag, it is going to draw lines. So my paint is working on runtime polymorphism. So this is nothing but your runtime polymorphism. If I select rubber, if I click, drag and leave, it is going to rub the thing. So you see that I am calling a single method, but it is performing various tasks depending upon the object that we make at runtime. So this is nothing but your runtime polymorphism real-time example that I have shown you. So this is all about your runtime polymorphism, and it's really very important concept. You will have runtime polymorphism concept in almost all big projects. So this is all about your runtime polymorphism. Now let us define runtime polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism is nothing but, if I have an abstract class and say there are n number of classes which is implementing the abstract class, and I am making the reference of abstract class and making it an object of any class at runtime and calling the methods. The methods code gets generated at runtime depending upon the user's input. So this complete concept is called as runtime polymorphism. Runtime in the sense at the time of execution. Polymorphism, many meanings. Calculate salary has got many meanings. It is calculating the salary of admin, it is calculating the salary of lecturer, it is calculating the salary of lab assistant, but it depends at runtime. At compile time I can never say what method it is going to execute. So this is all about your runtime polymorphism. Thank you very much.